AI, where they use AI tools for brands to find talent and creators to work with, and they also have one for PR and finding journalists and media for also brands to work with. But for them, we came together to create this series called Creator Spotlight because they wanted to be working with more brands and creators around partnerships and marketing and deals. But I'm like, the whole idea and experiment there was that I said, well, what are you doing in the creator space? You want to be in creator culture? What are you doing right now? Right? And like, what makes you have credibility in this space? And part of that credibility is adding value to the space. And then you could go back to your brands and saying, oh, we're building these relationships with the creators. And then you could go to the creators and say, like, we're not just reaching out when we have the brand deal, but we've started to build that relationship in a really valuable way. We want to spotlight and highlight your stories. Part of that is not just doing it internally, but reaching out to a company like mine. I've been in the creator economy space for 2 decades and saying, we trust you to do it. We want to collaborate with you. We're not going to pretend that we know what we're doing, because we don't.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It's always, in sort of anything, whether it's VR, virtual production, the minute someone on the other end says, oh, I totally get it. I'm like, I live and breathe it, and I don't totally get it, because it's evolving and changing all the time. But I think, too, what you're talking about is community, which is, the tentpole of everything, but I think especially now. And I do love the brand piece of it, because I originally come from advertising and commercials. And it's kind of a nice space it's sort of talking about the risk factor, right? You can sort of try something that's sort of a smaller risk as opposed to like a multi-million. You can sort of say, let's just put a couple $100,000 here and try this, or even, 20,000, whatever it is. But I think that's a good playground.
And I would just add that I think that, you're gonna tweak as you go. Like, part of our deals that we do is we say, including if it's like a 6-episode or half a year or a year deal, saying that we will be regrouping every month or as each episode comes out, saying what worked, what didn't, how can we tweak, and like continue to make the process better. And that's what the beauty of digital, and that's the beauty of being a creator and being nimble as a small business. I could do that, right? And so that's what I also need to add. Like, just because something doesn't work perfectly doesn't mean you can't change it. Right? Versus then there's this feeling of right away like, oh, are they gonna pull out? Are they gonna, because it wasn't perfect? Are they gonna end this deal that's a big deal for me? To be able to have these conversations like, no, everything was good, we did it the best we could, but hey, like, let's be curious and excited about what's possible in the next round. Next month, we're gonna try it this way. That's how we learn.
Well, and I think it's, if we're all at sort of this bleeding edge, you have to test it. Like, you can't, everything's not going to be
platforms
exactly
are changing every freaking month.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so you need to look at it that way, from a small creator perspective to a large business perspective on social.
But I thought what you were saying about the authentic nature of why you got hired to begin with, right? They knew what they were getting into. They're not going to change. I mean, yes, things change and evolve, but they're not. If they try to change you too much, what's the purpose of bringing you on board in the first place? I think that's what you were getting at, right?
Yeah, I mean, but you'd be surprised. Well, you wouldn't be surprised because you've been there too. Like, how many times they hire a creator and you start here and you end up right here. The goalpost moves so far. It does become a constant. Creators talk about this. Like, why did you even hire me? And that's challenging. And so anyway, it's part of the process, and it creates sometimes a bad taste in people's mouths. But like, my hope is, as we professionalize this, that creators could realize it's part of the process. Agencies deal with this too. Like, anyone who gets hired, so just put your big boots on. What is that like saying? Put your adult boots on.
I want to comment real quick on something you said that makes a ton of sense. So previously to joining Verizon or the corporation at all, I ran my own production company for many, many years. And you just said something that's so true in differentiation between that world and the world I'm in now, is being able to move fast and change direction was literally my superpower then. And now, with being inside a large company, we take a long time. We take a long time to get to move. It's a big boat, and it moves and turns slowly. So I think that's the best thing that small companies can offer to large companies, is that capability to change quickly.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Like, okay, you want to make a change? Like, I'm going to tell my team right away. Like, go to a big company or a big agency and see if that's possible. And you're gonna have a line in directly with the CEO and founder, right? Like, you could, not like, I don't wanna overuse this, but like, I wanna know, text me if there's an issue. Like, I wanna have a conversation right away, I care. Because it's my face. Sometimes we do hire other talent, but like, you know, I built this with you because we thought we came in with a vision together and I want to make it work. It wasn't just like an RFP I was throwing in with a bunch of RFPs. Like, I'm coming in and I'm building something that we can co-create and I care about.
Yeah, and I think it all goes back to as well, like sort of the why. We talk about this a lot from like the production side, right? Especially when people are talking about playing with emerging tools. It's like, why? Why do you want that? Because if you just want to do it because it's the new thing, that's not the right answer. And I think that's why it is so important that like the program that you have exists, that, you know, what Verizon's jumping into, because I think there's that access point, but it's also that sort of learning together. And I love how you talk about the video being like a startup, even though it is a big company, it has that startup mentality and culture, because I think that's what's going to keep things moving forward.
I sent James an email yesterday, he got back in 3 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's kind of wild to see. And like, so that startup thing is real. And like, NVIDIA's my first, I've had startups for 15 years, and so NVIDIA's my first time moving to corporate life, and I kind of don't think it's typical corporate life. For better, for worse, but mostly for better. Like, it is, okay, you get it. You know what I mean. Good times, fun, fast.
But I think that's sort of, you know, he keeps his eyes on it, and that's why it's so successful. I know we're very close on time here, but are there any sort of final words of wisdom that you guys want to impart to the audience, or any final comments that you want to make?
Yeah, start with you.
Yes.
I was a recent addition to this panel, so I want some time back.
Okay, well, I think that with large companies, sometimes this is challenging, but I think at the end of the day, you know, we're talking about risk and reward, but ultimately business ventures, especially for creators of smaller companies, are really about having meaning and purpose and their values. And when you talk about there's all this change going on all the time, the way to always stay focused on your North Star and to be able to make decisions when everything is moving around constantly and changing is to really find and be focused on what are your values, what is the meaning and purpose behind what you're doing, because most of us are doing this because we actually feel really passionately about it and what we can contribute to the world. And so it is business. You have to make money in order to have a sustainable business. But ultimately, I think all decisions have to run through the filter of, is this in alignment with my values? Is this in alignment with the meaning and purpose? Is this why I went into this business? Is this why I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, with an idea or something to work on it? And so I just think just staying connected to your North Star.
That's great advice. I'm using that in my next panel. See you, Mishawn.
Yeah, creative is king in this industry for sure. And so I think to that perspective as well, from Verizon side, Verizon is a very tech-forward company. And so there's one of the main things that I'm working on within the company is changing that dialect just a little bit so that we can speak the language of the entertainment industry. I don't have any specific tips or ideas for the space, but I'll just say, you know, we'll be releasing more information about what we're building, and hopefully it's something that we can work with all startups in that space, and we'll be able to talk more about it beginning of next year.
All right, well, I have a question. Who here is part of a startup right now? Okay, who's a contractor? Big company. All right, one person. Sorry. And this could, you know, help you too, but I think we do need to think as a startup, you know, stay nimble. And when things get too complicated, including if you're a creator or a startup or you're your own boss, simplify. And stop judging yourself if things aren't working, because that's part of the process. And that's part of finding innovative solutions. Because I know a lot of times for me, when you're like working alone and you're doing it on your own, if things aren't working, like I would take it on personally, like something's wrong with me, I'm a failure, right? And that can happen in a company too, where there's a lot of pressure to keep up, including in this market. But I would say to look at those like failures or those obstacles as like, okay, there's a reason why this isn't working, and like that North Star is like, it's bringing me to find a solution that's gonna become the thing that makes me stand out and becomes part of like what I'm bringing to the table. That's how I've figured out, as like an early adopter, my next thing. It always happened. It did not happen when things were working. It happened when shit hit the fan, I lost a bunch of money, and I hit a wall, right? So I would just say, like, look at your walls as, like, I guess, bridges, and be kind to yourself in the process. And, you know, it's okay to take a beat back to take many steps forward. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
And I've loved seeing how many co-founders and startups are here. It's exciting.
Well, now that I'm outside of Intel, so I must feel like I'm part of this community, some of the startup community. But you know, I wanted to just reflect upon some of the great things that were said here around the North Star, and at least for us, I think it was really about just managing expectations. You know, as you go through that process, what do you expect that partner to do? What are you going to do? Give, gets. And structuring that. I love what you said about the winding, if it's winding down. I think that's what you said. That was great. Unwind, excuse me, thank you. And then Scott, around when you were talking about translators, at least maybe in a way. Who are those translators within your own company? Who speaks M&E? You know, in the big companies, because in the big companies, a lot of people they don't have some of those departments. You know, who are your best spokespeople, right, to be able to convey some of those ideas. And then, you know, as like I said, on the outside of Intel now, you know, I'm looking for ways to work with some of the other big companies now that I'm on the flip side of things. So going at an advisory capacity. So yeah, so thank you for having me. I think this is the end of the but yeah.
Okay, my last piece of advice. Take big swings, especially now, right? AI is going to make mediocrity pretty easy. I can write a screenplay now while I'm up here. It's going to be a mediocre screenplay because I'm not a screenwriter, right? But I see startups all day, every day, and there's something to that. What I say? The mediocrity is getting easy. So take a big swing, right? Like that's what I would. You know, NVIDIA has this idea of we go after $0 billion industries, right? This is from Jensen, so this is channeling him right now. You know, we try to figure out something that only NVIDIA can do, right? We don't think about like competition or market share. It's like we're gonna run into this field because we think that if the world trends this way, we're gonna be perfectly positioned to do that. And you know, 30 years after our founding, we got this one right, along with several other industries. So, you know, if you're a startup, man, I go back and forth with this because I've had startups and I want to say don't play it safe, but like right now in particular, take big swings and you know fail fast also. So take a big swing, fail fast, and then move on to the next thing. But
that's great. Yeah. And I'm going to add one, which is beat the frog. And I don't know if people are familiar with this saying, but someone once gave me a brass frog statue, and I was like, what is it about me that's reminding you of a frog? But it's actually very good, which is frogs can only move forward. And she's like, you're always moving forward, whatever you're doing, however you're evolving. So just be the frog and just keep moving forward.
I thought it was a boiling water situation. Yeah. That's way better. That's the better.
That's after the band's show tonight, right? After the big show, we'll talk about that. But thank you all so much. This was really, really great.
Let's have a big hand, everybody. What a great session. Quick recap. Tell us about what's happening tonight.
Thank you guys. If you are busy, starting at 5:30 next door at the Avalon. It sounds like you all have badges, so or it looks like you all have badges. Come next door for a free show, free drinks, and just some other networking. How's that? And and I'm performing with my band with my guys back